What if I told you that within 20 years, natural childbirth will be illegal, and every human born after 2045 will be grown in a laboratory under corporate control? Not dystopian fantasy, not science fiction, speculation. A trajectory already set in motion by technology being developed right now, by corporations investing billions in artificial womb systems, by governments preparing legal frameworks for synthetic gestation, by fertility clinics transitioning from assisting reproduction to replacing it, by a future where pregnancy becomes obsolete, where natural birth becomes dangerous, where growing humans in laboratories becomes mandatory, not through force, through convenience, through safety, through the slow normalization of synthetic gestation until natural reproduction seems primitive, risky, irresponsible, until carrying a child in your body becomes socially unacceptable, medically discouraged, eventually prohibited, and humanity's final biological connection. The bond between mother and child formed through 9 months of shared existence, is severed forever, replaced by sterile laboratories, by artificial environments, by corporate gestation services, by humans grown in tanks like products on assembly lines. This is the end of natural birth, the industrialization of human creation, the final commodity where life itself is manufactured, where reproduction becomes transaction, where babies are products designed, optimized, and delivered by corporations, where human creation happens not through intimate connection but through clinical procedures, where the most fundamental human experience, bringing new life into the world, becomes obsolete, replaced by technology, controlled by institutions, owned by those who control the artificial wombs, the laboratories, the synthetic gestation systems. That will soon be the only way humans are allowed to be born. Let me show you how natural birth dies. And what replaces it? 1924. JBS Haldane predicts that by 2070, 70% of human births will occur in artificial wombs. Everyone dismissed it as science fiction, as impossible speculation, as the fantasy of someone who didn't understand biology. Because gestation is complex, miraculous, requiring precise hormonal orchestration, immune system modulation, continuous nutrient exchange, waste elimination, protection, development, all provided through the connection between mother and child, through the placenta, through 9 months of biological intimacy. It seemed impossible to replicate, impossible to replace, impossible to improve. Pregnancy had worked for millions of years. Why change it? How could technology possibly match natural biological process refined by you? But technology advances always inevitably. And what seemed impossible becomes achievable. What seemed natural becomes optional. What seemed eternal becomes obsolete. 2017. The breakthrough. Researchers at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia creates an artificial womb called the biobag. Keep lamb fetuses alive for 4 weeks in a fluid-filled environment, providing oxygen through umbilical cord connected to machine, maintaining temperature, controlling nutrients, eliminating waste. The lambs developed normally, healthily, proving that artificial gestation works, that external wombs are possible, that pregnancy can be replicated through technology. The research claimed it was for premature babies, for saving lives, for medical necessity, helping infants born too early, giving them chance to develop outside the mother when natural gestation fails. Noble purpose, medical advance, humanitarian goal, and everyone believed that's all it would be. Just emergency medicine, just saving lives when biology fails. Not replacement of normal pregnancy, not elimination of natural birth, not the industrialization of human gestation, but technology doesn't stay limited to emergency use, doesn't remain constrained to medical necessity, doesn't stop at treating disease. It expands always to enhancement, to convenience, to replacing the natural with the artificial, to making the normal obsolete. That's the pattern. That's the trajectory. That's what always happens, and artificial wombs are no exception. 2023, Ectolife Concept unveiled comprehensive artificial womb facility, renderings showing rows of pods, transparent artificial wombs containing developing fetuses, monitored by computers, controlled by algorithms, maintained by technicians. Each pod equipped with sensors, monitoring every aspect of development, cameras allowing parents to watch from anywhere, speakers playing selected music, displays showing biometric data, temperature controlled perfectly, nutrients delivered precisely, no stress, no complications, no risk. Just optimized synthetic gestation, growing humans in controlled environments, like crops in greenhouses, like cells in laboratories, like products in factories. The creator claimed it's liberating, freeing women from pregnancy, allowing career focus, eliminating maternal mortality, preventing birth complications, offering perfect control over gestation, monitoring everything, optimizing everything, creating healthier babies through technological precision. And many celebrated it, called it feminist, called it progressive, called it the future. Liberation from biological burden, freedom from pregnancy, choice to reproduce without physical sacrifice, technology offering what nature never could, perfect gestation, perfect babies, perfect control. But look deeper. Look at what's really being created. Look at the implications. Look at where this leads. Because artificial wombs aren't liberation. They're control. Corporate control over human reproduction, institutional control over life, creation, the final commodification, the ultimate privatization, the transformation of human birth from intimate biological process to industrial manufacturing, from family creation to product delivery, from natural miracle to corporate service. And once it exists, once it's available, once it's normalized, natural birth becomes optional, then discouraged, then forbidden. Would you trust a corporation to grow your child more than you trust your own body? Because that's what they're asking. That's what they're selling. The idea that laboratories are better than wombs. That technology is superior to biology. That artificial is safer than natural. That human design systems surpass you, and they'll provide evidence. Statistics showing artificial wombs have lower complication rates, better outcomes, healthier babies, because they'll be comparing optimized laboratory conditions with average natural pregnancies, with pregnancies affected by poverty, by stress, by inadequate healthcare, by malnutrition, by environmental toxins, by all the factors that make natural pregnancy difficult, but not with healthy pregnancies in good conditions, not with natural gestation at its best, just with average reality affected by social problems, making artificial wombs seem superior through unfair comparison. And the marketing will be relentless. Fertility clinics offering synthetic gestation as premium service, celebrities choosing artificial wombs, influencers documenting their ectopregnancy journey, media celebrating the technology, articles about women pursuing careers uninterrupted, about couples choosing synthetic gestation for convenience, about same-sex partners and single individuals accessing reproduction previously unavailable, about genetic diseases eliminated through controlled development, about optimization impossible in natural pregnancy, creating social pressure, making artificial gestation desirable, aspirational, expected, while natural pregnancy becomes seen as risky, old-fashioned, selfish even. Putting children at unnecessary risk through natural gestation when artificial wombs are available, safer, better, more responsible. China's already moving this direction. Government-funded research into artificial wombs, papers published on optimizing synthetic gestation, facilities being built. Because China sees demographic advantage, sees artificial wombs as solution to declining birth rates without requiring women to sacrifice careers, sees ability to control population growth through industrial reproduction, to optimize genetic quality through controlled gestation, to create citizens designed for specific purposes. Artificial wombs don't just enable reproduction, they enable genetic selection, enhancement, modification, combined with gene editing, creating designer babies grown in controlled environments, optimized from conception through delivery, produced rather than born, manufactured rather than created. It's not reproduction. It's It's production. Industrial scale human manufacturing, and China's embracing it, while the West debates ethics. If this is chilling you to the bone, if you're seeing the reproductive control grid being built, subscribe now. Because what comes next reveals how deep this transformation already goes. The corporations are positioning fertility companies, transitioning business models from assisting reproduction to replacing it, investing in artificial womb technology, preparing facilities, training technicians, developing protocols, creating infrastructure for industrial gestation, for mass production of humans, for factories growing babies, not for premature infants, not for medical emergencies, for everyone, for all reproduction, for complete replacement of natural birth. And the pricing model is already clear: tiered services. Basic artificial gestation, standard monitoring, regular nutrition, adequate development for those who can afford basic service, premium packages, enhanced monitoring, optimize nutrition, enrichment programs, music therapy, visual stimulation, everything to maximize development for those willing to pay more, luxury options, genetic optimization, enhancement, designer features, perfect health, superior intelligence, optimal capabilities for the wealthy elite, creating biological inequality from conception, where your development quality depends on what your parents paid, where gestation becomes another dimension of class. Another way wealth determines outcomes, another mechanism reinforcing hierarchy, and once commercial artificial gestation exists, once it's established, once infrastructure is built, the pressure begins. Insurance companies offering lower premiums for artificial gestation, claiming it's safer, lower risk, better outcomes, making natural pregnancy more expensive to insure, making women pay more for choosing biological gestation, employers preferring artificial gestation, offering benefits that cover it, encouraging employees to choose it, avoiding pregnancy-related accommodations, eliminating maternity leave complications, making natural pregnancy career disadvantage, making artificial gestation professional necessity, social pressure building, dating preferences shifting, partners expecting artificial gestation, seeing natural pregnancy as burden, as sacrifice, as unnecessary risk, as choice that affects them, making women who want natural pregnancy selfish, irresponsible, choosing danger over safety, risk over prudence, nature over progress, medical establishment joining studies showing complications in natural pregnancy, highlighting risks, emphasizing dangers, recommending artificial wombs as safer alternative, publishing guidelines suggesting synthetic gestation for high-risk pregnancies, then for all pregnancies, making natural birth like home birth. Technically legal, but medically discouraged. Insurance doesn't cover complications. Doctors refuse to attend. Hospitals won't accommodate, making natural birth practically impossible, even if technically allowed, forcing women into artificial gestation through systemic pressure, through economic coercion, through social expectation, through medical gatekeeping, without ever banning natural pregnancy, just making it impossible, unbearable, unacceptable. And then the real control begins. Because artificial wombs exist in institutions, in facilities and laboratories where access is controlled, where monitoring is constant, where development happens under observation, where the growing fetus is accessible, available, subject to institutional authority, to corporate decisions, to government oversight, to all the powers that control access to the artificial womb, creating unprecedented control over reproduction, over life, creation, over human development, control that natural pregnancy prevented because pregnant women retain autonomy, retain authority over their bodies, retain protection from outside interference. But artificial wombs, those are property owned by corporations, regulated by governments, accessible to authorities, with fetuses developing in controlled environments, where intervention is easy, where modification is possible, where everything is monitored, recorded, subject to external authority. Think about the implications. Government could mandate genetic screening, require testing, prohibit development of fetuses with unapproved characteristics, enforce genetic standards, not just for disease, for any criteria, for intelligence, for compliance, for desirable traits, for social goals. Eliminating genetic diversity deemed undesirable, ensuring population meets specifications, creating designed humanity, optimized humanity, controlled humanity through mandatory screening and selection during artificial gestation, through power over reproduction that natural pregnancy prevented. Corporations could claim ownership. Artificial wombs are their property. Gestation is their service. Fetuses developed in their facilities are subject to their terms, to their contracts, to their conditions. Parents might sign away rights, might accept restrictions, might agree to modifications, might surrender authority to entities controlling artificial wombs because access depends on compliance, on accepting terms, on surrendering control, making reproduction conditional, contracted, subject to corporate authority, to institutional power, to external control that natural pregnancy prevented. Would you sign a contract giving a corporation rights over your developing child just to access artificial gestation? Because that's what's coming. That's what contracts will require. Terms of service for reproduction, conditions for accessing artificial wombs, agreements that grant authority, that require compliance, that ensure control, and people will sign because they'll have no choice. Because natural pregnancy will be socially impossible, economically impractical, medically unsupported, because artificial gestation will be only option, only path to parenthood. And desperate parents will accept any terms, sign any contract, surrender any authority, just have children, making reproduction conditional, making life creation dependent on corporate permission, making human existence subject to institutional control from the very beginning, from conception, from the moment life starts, already owned, already controlled, already subject to external authority. And the children will know, will understand they weren't born, they were manufactured, they were products created in laboratories, grown in artificial wombs, developed in corporate facilities, without natural connection to mother, without biological bonding, without 9 months of shared existence, without the intimacy of gestation, without the relationship formed through pregnancy. They'll know there were products of industrial process, of commercial transaction, of corporate service, and that knowledge will shape them, will affect development, will influence psychology, will create humans who see themselves differently, who understand their existence as manufactured, as designed, as produced, rather than naturally created through love, through connection, through biological miracle. They'll be products and they'll know it. The psychological impact will be profound. Attachment theorists are already warning about consequences of synthetic gestation, about lack of biological bonding, about absence of mother-child connection during development, about impact on psychological development, on emotional capacity, on ability to form relationships, about creating humans who never experienced the intimacy of gestation, who never felt heartbeat of mother, who never heard her voice naturally, who never shared her existence, who were grown in isolation, in artificial environments, in sterile laboratories, monitored by machines, tended by strangers, without love, without connection, without the biological relationship that shapes human development, creating humans who are fundamentally different, psychologically altered, emotionally modified by the absence of natural gestation, by synthetic creation, by laboratory growth, and we won't know the consequences, won't understand the impact until generations later, until humans grown in artificial wombs are adults. Our parents themselves are trying to form relationships and raise children and function in society with psychology shaped by synthetic gestation, with emotional development affected by laboratory creation, with attachment patterns modified by absence of natural bonding. By that time, it'll be too late, too normalized, too established. Natural birth will be forgotten. Synthetic gestation will be standard, and whatever consequences emerge, whatever human costs exist, they'll be permanent, irreversible, built into humanity through transformation of reproduction from biological process to industrial manufacturing. But corporations don't care about psychological consequences, don't care about human costs, don't care about long-term impacts. They care about profit. And artificial wombs are incredibly profitable, charging for service, charging for monitoring, charging for optimization, charging for every aspect of development, creating 9-month revenue stream, making reproduction subscription service, making life creation profit center, monetizing human gestation, commodifying reproduction, extracting maximum value from a process of creating humans. It's capitalism applied to life itself. Privatization of reproduction, transformation of birth into business, into industry, into market, where human creation is product, where gestation is service, where life itself is commodity to be bought and sold. The wealthy will get superior gestation, premium facilities, best monitoring, optimal development, genetic enhancement, every advantage, while the poor get basic service. Minimum standards, adequate but not optimal, unenhanced natural genetic, creating inequality from the earliest possible point, from conception, from the moment of existence, where your development quality depends on what your parents could afford, where your biological capabilities are determined by payment plans, where life itself is stratified by class, by wealth, by access to premium reproductive services. It's biological inequality built into the creation process, into the beginning of existence, into the fundamental origin of each human, making inequality eternally inherent and unavoidable, because it starts at conception. In the quality of artificial womb you are grown in the level of service your parents purchased, in the corporate package that determined your development. China's planning exactly this. Documents leaked from biotech research facilities discussing population optimization through controlled reproduction, through artificial wombs enabling genetic selection, enhancement, creating stratified population, worker class grown in basic facilities with standard genetics, professional class with enhanced capabilities, elite class with optimal enhancement, all determined during artificial gestation, all controlled through synthetic reproduction, all creating biological hierarchy, genetic caste system, humans designed for specific purposes, grown in appropriate facilities, given capabilities, matching intended roles. It's not reproduction. It's manufacturing humans for purposes, creating people as products, designing lives for functions, and artificial wombs make it possible, make it controllable, make it implementable without consent, without choice, without resistance. Because reproduction happens in facilities under control, subject to institutional authority, to government power, to purposes decided by those controlling artificial wombs. Do you want your great-grandchildren to be manufactured in government facilities according to state-determined specifications? Because that's the trajectory. That's where artificial wombs lead. To controlled reproduction, to design humans, to manufactured populations, to people created according to specifications for purposes with capabilities, all determined by those controlling gestation technology. All possible because reproduction happens in laboratories, in facilities and institutions, under authority, under power, under control. Natural pregnancy prevented this, kept reproduction private, kept creation intimate, kept life beginning as personal decision, as biological process, as natural miracle beyond institutional control. But artificial wombs changed everything. Make reproduction institutional, make creation industrial, make life beginning subject to external authority, to corporate power, to government control. to purposes beyond individual choice, beyond family decision, beyond human autonomy. Issuing through social acceptance. Movies showing artificial wombs as normal, TV depicting synthetic gestation as routine, articles celebrating laboratory reproduction, influencers promoting modern parenting through technology, creating expectation, building acceptance, normalizing synthetic gestation before it's even available, preparing society, conditioning populations, making artificial wombs seem inevitable, natural, progressive, the obvious next step, the future of reproduction, making anyone who opposes seem backward, fearful Luddites, opposing progress, denying women choice, preventing technological advancement. The narrative being set, the resistance being preempted, the acceptance being manufactured before the technology even exists. Before artificial wombs are deployed, the social groundwork being laid for complete replacement of natural birth, for elimination of pregnancy, for transformation of reproduction into industrial process, into corporate service, into manufactured existence. And most people will accept it, will choose it even because it'll be convenient, safe, controlled, better than natural pregnancy with its risks and discomforts and uncertainties, better than 9 months of physical changes and social limitations and medical complications, better than birth with its pain and danger and unpredictability. Artificial wombs offering certainty, offering control, offering perfection. Who wouldn't choose that? Who wouldn't prefer controlled development over natural randomness? Who wouldn't want guaranteed healthy baby over unpredictable natural process? The choice seems obvious. The benefits seem clear. The advantages seem undeniable until you realize what you're surrendering, what you're losing, what you're giving up. The final biological connection, the last intimate process, the ultimate human experience, replaced by a technology, controlled by institutions, owned by corporations, made into product, into service, into transaction, where life itself becomes commodity, where creation becomes manufacturing, where human existence begins not through love, but through contract, not through intimacy, but through payment, not through natural miracle, but through industrial process. That's the future artificial wombs create. That's the world synthetic gestation produces. That's the humanity laboratory reproduction designs. Manufactured, controlled, owned, from conception, from the beginning, from the moment of existence, subject to external authority, to institutional power, to purposes decided by those controlling reproductive technology, by those owning artificial wombs, by those running gestation facilities, who determine what humans are created, what capabilities they receive, what purposes they serve, making reproduction not right but privilege, not natural but conditional, not free but controlled, absolutely, completely, permanently. And stopping it seems impossible. Technology is developing, investment is flowing, research is advancing. Governments are preparing, corporations are positioning, society is being conditioned, the trajectory is set, the future is being built, and natural birth is being eliminated. Not through force, through obsolescence, through making natural pregnancy impossible to choose, impractical to attempt, unacceptable to society, until artificial gestation becomes only option, mandatory reality, universal standard, and natural birth becomes forgotten, eliminated, replaced by laboratory reproduction, by synthetic gestation, by industrial manufacturing of humans, by creating life as corporate service, as institutional process, as controlled development, as designed existence, where humans are products from conception, where life begins, not naturally but artificially, where reproduction, and it's being normalized now, gradually through media representation, through cultural, content happens not through biology but through technology, through artificial wombs, through synthetic gestation, through laboratory creation, making human existence manufactured, making life designed, making creation controlled completely, finally, forever. But maybe humanity deserves this. Maybe natural reproduction was always doomed to be replaced. Maybe biological gestation was always destined to become obsolete. Maybe technology was always going to industrialize life creation. Maybe there was never any other possible future. Maybe resistance is futile. Maybe acceptance is inevitable. Maybe synthetic humans grown in laboratory wombs are what comes next. What replaces naturally born humans? What defines the future? A future where natural birth is extinct, where pregnancy is forgotten, where humans are manufactured, where life itself is product, designed, controlled, owned from the very beginning, from conception, from the moment of existence, made not through love, but through transaction, not through intimacy, but through contract, not through miracle, but through process. Industrial process, corporate process, controlled process that creates humans as products, life as commodity, existence as manufacturing, and calls it progress. If this revelation has exposed the reproductive control grid being constructed, if you're seeing natural birth being systematically eliminated, you need to understand this is just one piece. The next episode reveals how synthetic humans combined with neural implants, genetic modification, and artificial intelligence to create controllable populations. Humans designed to be compliant, engineered to serve, created to be owned. The final integration, the complete control, the end of human autonomy, and the birth of manufactured humanity designed for subjugation. Subscribe, turn on notifications, share this with everyone who values human dignity, because what we reveal next is the ultimate horror. The final transformation, the complete redesign of human existence into something designed to be controlled. Something that looks human but isn't free. Something manufactured to serve, and you need to see it before it becomes your reality. Before humanity ends and something else begins. See you on the other side. While born still means something.